give my imaginary microphone to Rajashi to start the session.
Thank you, Nona. All right. For some reason, my kids decided that they're going to make some noise now, just right now. Okay. So welcome everybody. Welcome to Data with Pandas session 2. If you haven't attended the session 1, there's no worry. You can still be able to understand today's content, and you can always revisit the YouTube recording of the last one after this session. Welcome again, and we are excited to guide you through this journey of discovering Pandas, which is the most powerful tool in data analysis in Python. So let me start sharing my slides without further ado. And I would like a confirmation if you can see it. Share. Okay, please give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Data with Pandas session 2. We are happy to see you all here. Um, we are thankful to JetBrains Academy for supporting us for this course. It's going to be a series of 4 sessions. And in the last sessions, we covered the introduction to Pandas, some first steps, which is understanding the data structure in Pandas, which is mainly data frame and then series. Under data preparation, we learned how to load the data. We learned how to inspect the data at a high level. And today we are going to continue learning under data preparation how to clean the data. And then we'll learn more about data exploration. Let's get started. But before we do that, I'd like to mention that we are following the JetBrains Academy curriculum here. And let me just show you the JetBrains interface. This is the JetBrains course interface. If you have gone through the meetup details, there was a request to install the JetBrains course. So basically what you have to do is install PyCharm Community Edition, and which is free, and then install the Gateway to Pandas course of JetBrains Academy. And just a quick introduction to the interface here. On the left side, you can see this is the course. And well, they have many other courses too, and this is one of the courses. And on the left side, you can see all the lessons. If you expand the tree or the explorer, in the middle, you have the code editor, and then where you can execute the tasks that are given in each of these chapters. And on the right side, you have the explanation for each chapter, and you can see that you can browse by clicking on the page numbers here, or going next at the bottom. So this is how the interface is designed. In today's session, I'll hardly be probably explaining just one slide, and the rest of the things will be more like a walkthrough of the different steps that will go in data analysis. Okay, so let me go back to the slides. All right, so first we are going to start with data cleaning. So whenever we start with data analysis, initially the first step is to load the data, and then we look at the data at a high level to see what is the structure, how many rows it has, how many columns, what are the different types of columns, the statistical details, etc., which were covered in the last session. Now the next step is data cleaning. Just like cooking, if you look at cooking, if you're trying to cook your favorite recipe, even if you have all your ingredients, you still might have some lumps in the floor, the vegetable or the meat might need cleaning. So data is just like that. Before you can use it, you have to clean it. So what problems we might have in the data that might need cleaning are some of these are examples on the screen, which is missing values. You might have some missing values like null values or not a number, as you can see here in this image. And then you might have some duplicates, incorrect data types, unwanted rows or columns, some outliers which may throw off your average or any aggregation summation that you want to do, or you might also have some columns that might need renaming. Like you can see in this image, some of the column names are not very easy to be used repeatedly in the code. So you may want to rename such columns to a much simplified column names. All right. So before I move on to the main code and main steps, a little bit about the slides here. I'll be sharing all of the slides. There are more slides after this. And for all of these slides, I have tried to maintain this small piece of data as an example so that all the steps or all the code lines of code that are mentioned over here are with reference to the data shown here. But in our exercise, we are going to use a similar data set, which is the data of European countries, population, GDP, and area. It's a synthetic data, not realistic one. But in our exercise, we'll have more number of rows. If some of you want to try right now along with me to execute some of the steps, let me see if I can share the data file with you. I don't know if the Google Meet allows that. Let me try and check that.
Or you can put it in Slack and we can download it from Slack.
Yeah, sure. Let me see. Well, it's not allowing me here. I see we have some tools. Yeah, I don't think it allows sharing file, does it?
Yeah, I think in Google it should be through the Google Drive, upload to Google Drive and after link here. But in Slack, you can attach it as a file, just CSV
Okay.
file.
So maybe I'll share it later because most of them aren't on Slack right now. So we'll just go through the example in PyCharm. Okay. All right. So here I have my example file. Let me open that. Okay. Okay, I think you can see the screen. Let me just zoom in a little bit so that the fonts are clear since last time that was an issue. Is this better now? The fonts, is it visible? If anybody could give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, we can see the size is okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, so I have the code ready made so that we didn't have to lose time when I'm typing, and I'm just I have most of the code commented here, and I'm going to uncomment step by step as we go ahead. So we have a data of European countries, like I said, with around 70 plus of rows. So first we load the data, which is the first step, and make sure you have imported Pandas as PD. PD is a global convention. And I've also imported matplotlib.pyplot, which can be used to plot some charts, which we'll do if the time permits later. All right, so first we have loaded a CSV file here, which has the data. And now the first step is we're going to see how many rows it has and what is the high level inspection. Okay, so when I run this code, you can see that we have, okay, so this is not it. Make sure you have current file selected. All right, so now when I run this code, you can see that this is the shape, which means that it has 77 rows and 5 columns. And then df.head provides the first 5 rows of the data. And you can see that these are the column names. And we have country code, which has the row labels. And in the middle that you see is the main data. The Albania, the country till the country code 2 is the main data. Okay. Now you can see that we already have a country code here on the first column or the row labels, but and the last one, country code 2, seems like an unwanted column, but we'll not do anything about it right now. Let's go to the next step. So we can try to print. If we just want to look at the column names, we can also try to print df.columns, and I run that. And now you can see that it has mentioned the column names. So now I'll say, okay, I don't want this. This seems like an unwanted column, country code 2, and I want to drop that. So for that, we can use df.drop, and you just pass on the column name. If it is more than one column, then you can pass them as a list. For example, if I want to add one more column here, maybe the country column, since it's easier to type. And then axis equals 1 means it's a column that we want to drop. If we remove this, if we want to drop rows, then we have to mention axis equals 0. So if I run this, now you can see after dropping the unwanted columns, it has dropped the country column, and then the last column, country code 2, has also been dropped. Let me take this back to what it was, because we need the country column and we are only dropping the last column. Okay, so now the last column has been dropped. Now I want to rename these columns because they are not very friendly to type in again and again. So we will rename the columns. To rename the columns, this is the code, or this is the syntax. We have to say df.rename, and then inside the parentheses we mention columns equals, and in curly braces you mention the old column name colon new column name. And then again similarly for the next one, old column name colon new column name. Okay, so when we run that, I'm trying to print the new column names here, df.columns. So after renaming, you can see that these are the new column names. Country, population, GDP in an area, which is simplified version, which can be easy to type in the code. Now we have renamed the column, we have dropped the unwanted column and renamed the columns. Now we'll go and check the rows. Before that, I'll try to see what are the last few rows. Okay, just like df.head gives us the top few rows, df.tail gives us the last 5 rows. But if we mention 10, it will give us the last 10 rows. Okay, so these are the last 10 rows of the data set. Now you can see that there is something weird here. XX1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the names don't seem right. The numbers also don't seem right. So it looks like these are some rows that we can drop. So these are, if we consider this as unwanted rows, we are going to drop these rows. So for that, we say df.drop and we pass on the list of row labels. Okay. For those who are attending for the first time in Pandas, this data structure is called as a data frame, in which we have columns, and for rows we have row labels. So when we pass on the row labels here, these rows will be dropped. Okay, so now when I try to check, what happened is I did a df.tail again after dropping the rows. Now you can see that those rows have been dropped, the XX1 to XX5. And after dropping, if you remember correctly, we had 77 rows earlier. After dropping 5 rows, the df.shape returns 72. After dropping 5 rows, we have 72 rows. Okay, so now we have dropped the unwanted columns, dropped the unwanted rows. Now we are going to check for duplicates, if we have any duplicate rows. Okay, so for that, the syntax is df.duplicated.sum. Okay, so when I run that, it says that we have 2 rows that are duplicates. Okay, so now we want to drop these duplicate rows. So to eliminate that, we say df.drop duplicates and nothing else, just the parentheses. All right, so when I run that, and then I try to check again for duplicates. Okay, so now let me pull this up. So initially when we checked for duplicates, you can see that we had 2 rows. After dropping duplicates, we have 0 duplicate rows. And then we also did a df.shape, which gives us the current total row numbers, which earlier was 72, and now it's 70 rows after dropping the duplicates. Okay. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast, slow? Please let me know. What does the duplicated returns? You mean without the sum?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because of
so
the
it
two
will,
rows.
yeah, so let's check that. Let me remove this. Okay, or maybe the second one. So here, this. Maybe remove this one here. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's remove the first one because you see this? It returns Boolean values. It returns Boolean values saying that whether each of the rows has a duplicate or no. So that is why when we do a sum, it sums up. So false is basically 0 and true is basically 1, right? So since these two rows have duplicates, they're returning 1 and the sum is 2. So hence, when we do a dot sum, it returns the value of 2. Is
Thank
that
you.
is it
Yeah,
clear?
that's
Yeah.
very clear. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So moving on, we got rid of the duplicate rows now. Now we will see missing values. Okay. The missing values might be null or just blanks or maybe like not a number like we have in this data. So let me uncomment that. So here to check missing values, we do a df.isNull.sum. As we saw for duplicated, if we remove the sum, we will get again Boolean values, true and false. And dot sum will just give us a total number of missing values. So let me run that. And we see that these are the missing values for each column. Population has 2 missing values, GDP has 2 missing values, and area has 5 missing values. All right. So there are different ways in which we deal with missing values when it comes to data. We can either drop the missing values, or we might prefer to replace the missing values with something else, maybe some constant value, or maybe the mean or median of the rest of the values in the column. So let's try and look at some of these examples here. Before that, so we saw that df.isNull.sum gives us how many missing values does each column have. Now, if you want to look at where or what exactly these missing values are, here's the code. So first, what I'm doing here is I am creating a null mask where I say df.isNull without the sum, and then I say dot any axis equals 1, which is columns. Then I apply this mask to the data frame, df of null mask, and then if we run this, it shows the data where the null values are present. Okay, so that is what it returns. Now, how to deal with null values. First thing is we can either drop all the rows that contain null values. For that, the code is simple, df.drop_na and then parenthesis. So if we run that, I need to print it out, sorry. So maybe we can check that by doing a df.shape. So earlier, if you remember, we had 72 rows. Now it has 62 rows after dropping the rows that contain null values. Okay. Then, so that is one approach. The other approach may be you want to drop the null values in just one column, maybe like a GDP column. So we have considered GDP column here. And we have seen that the GDP has 2 rows with null values. So we say df.drop_na, but in the parentheses, we say a subset GDP. And if there are any other columns having null values, we don't care. We just want to drop the ones in GDP. So then if we run that, I think I need to this is okay. Yeah. So after dropping the null values from the GDP column, we have 68 rows. And So that is about dropping null values, missing values in a specific column. Now, the other approach would be to replace the null values with some other value. So for that, we can say we have to choose the column. So here we are saying that we will replace the missing values with the mean of a column. For example, we are saying here that for column population, yes, subset is a keyword, Sandeep. Okay, so here in this code, we are saying df of population equals, we are saying fill the population column, wherever it has NA, fill the population column with the mean of this column. And similarly for GDP, we are saying that in the GDP column, fill the NAs or the missing values with the mean of GDP column. Likewise for the area column. So when we run this, okay, I'm going to run that, and then maybe we do a df. We will print the first few columns, or actually maybe we can print the last ones. No, we'll check how many rows it has. So now we have the similar number of rows as earlier because we didn't drop any of the rows, right? We just replaced the null values with mean. Okay. So that is one. And if we want to drop the columns with null values, which may not be preferred because you will understand now when I do this. So if I say df dot drop NA, I did not mention anything about the axis, then by default, it is going to consider axis 0, which are the rows. Now here, when we say axis 1, it's going to consider the columns. So we are saying that drop any column that has missing values. So when I run that, and then we'll print the shape. Okay, so when I run that, you can see that after dropping missing values, we do not have anything left. Okay, there's no data left because apparently every column has a missing value except for the country. So we only have the country column left, but there is no data. So I'm guessing that in most of the cases we will not prefer to use dropping columns in case of missing values. Okay. All right. So we out of these, before we proceed further, we'll have to pick one. Maybe we will pick replacing the missing values with the mean, and then we will continue with our data analysis, next steps of our data analysis. Okay. All right. Now the next step is if we want to change any of the data types of any of the columns. So here, as an example, we are checking. If you have been in the last session, you know that df.info. So first you'll check what are the different data types for each column. For that, you can use df.info. What it gives you is all the different columns, their data type, and also how many non-null values they have. Since we have dealt with the null values, we do not have any null values. So all the rows have non-null values. And now what we do is we are going to change the data type of, so I'm sorry, I already ran this code. So earlier, before doing the as type, let me, okay. So these are the before data types. You can see that country is an object and all the other numerical columns are floats. Then what we did is we said we want to change the population column to type int and we're using dot as type, and then we mention the data type in the parenthesis. So when we run that, you can see that the population column is now changed into integer. Okay, so that is for changing the data type. Any questions so far before moving ahead? If no questions, then please give me a thumbs up if I can proceed further. Okay, thank you. All right. So far we covered the entire data cleaning process. Now we are moving on to exploration. Okay, exploration is basically taking a deeper look at the data. You're trying to sort and see what are the top 10 or top 3 values, excuse me. And then we will see how to filter the data. So first, let's start by understanding how to sort any of these columns. So it's pretty simple. You have to say df dot sort values, and then you can mention the column name. It can be one column or you can pass a list of columns. And for ascending equals false, ascending, if you say true, it will be sorted in ascending order, false, descending order. So here I want to see what are the top 10 most populated countries. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a variable df sorted, and to that I'm assigning the sorted data frame df dot sort values. I want the data frame sorted based on the population in descending order. Okay, and then here I'm just saying that I want to only look at the first 10, the top 10 data set. Okay, so that way we will see which are the top 10 most populated countries. When I run that, this is the result that we get. China, India, and all this. Okay, so you can see that population is arranged in a descending order here, and we have the first 10 values. Okay, so that is about sorting. Now we will look at how to filter the data. Okay, under filtering, there will be different types of filters that we can use. If it's a numerical columns, we generally use conditional operators, greater than, smaller than, equal to, not equal to. And then in case of strings, we might try to, there are different conditions like whether it starts with a letter, contains a certain letters, or ends with some letters. And then we might also have a list, and we want to check like, okay, whether this country falls in this list, or whether this population or a certain student belongs to this group of list of names. So that is checking against a list. And then negation is basically not equal to, okay, like a not condition. And then query filtering is basically instead of using any of these filtering conditions, you're using a query like how we use in SQL, a query like format, but you're using it in Pandas to filter Pandas data frame. So we'll look at these one by one now. First, we'll look at the conditional filter. Let's go. Okay, so here to simplify the code, I have specified two conditions. One is for population column, one is population filter where population is greater than 300 million, and then GDP filter, GDP greater than 1000. Okay, so then we are applying a filter here. I'm saying the population filter the data frame using this population filter. So currently we are only checking for one filter in the population column. So let's run that. And it returns 3 countries that have a population greater than 300 million. Okay, now we'll try to combine the two filters of population and GDP. So here we are saying df of population filter and GDP filter. And when we run that, it returns, we're getting the same 3 countries again, but it has applied the 2 conditions that we have specified. Okay. Now here we have used a variable and put the and condition. We can also write the same condition using like in a single line without using any variables. So which is here. Sorry. Yeah, so it's the same condition mentioned in a different way. Let me do that. No need. Okay, so here we have to consider, I'm sorry, please remember that when you're writing the and condition in the same line, the logical conditions, you have to separate each of the conditions by using parentheses. And then for and in PyCharm here, it gave an error when I used the AND. So make sure you use the symbol of and function. So let me run that. We're getting the same result, so that works. So either you could write it in one line or use variables to combine different conditions. Next one we'll see, we'll try to apply the same condition, but we don't want to look at all the columns. We just want to look at a few specific columns. So in that case, we say df, apply these two filters here, and then again, additionally, we are saying we only want to see country, population, and GDP. We don't want to look at any other columns. So run that. And now you can see just the columns that you wanted to see. Okay. So that is about the conditional filters. Now we'll move on to the string filters. Okay. So in string filter, we are saying in the country column, dot str, which is string, dot ends with y. So we're trying to filter the country column with any country that ends with y. Okay. So here it's not giving us any result because as you can see, it is an uppercase. If I change this to lowercase, now it returns the countries with the country names that end with y. Okay. All right. Next, what I want to do is show the use of ease in filter. So here we have a list of NATO countries, and I want to check which of the countries that are present in the data set are either NATO countries or non-NATO countries. Okay, and for that we will use the ease in condition. So here we are saying that df of country dot is in, then we pass this list. So it's going to check if a certain each of the countries are present here or no. And then based on that, it's going to filter and give us the data. And then additionally, when I'm printing out, I'm checking the length of this, the result, the filtered list to see how many countries in the data set are NATO countries. So we run that, and then you can see these are all the NATO countries, and we have 23 countries that are NATO in the data set. And similarly, if we want to check which are the non-NATO countries, we can use the negation filter. And for that, you just have to say data frame. In the square brackets, you mention the same condition that you use to check if it is a NATO country. Put that in parentheses and then add this negation symbol, which is a tilde. I think it's called tilde. So you just add a negation, which is basically like a not condition. And based on that, you're going to get the list of countries that don't belong to that list. So these are the non-NATO countries. We have around 47 non-NATO countries in our data set. All right. So the last one is query filtering. I'm just going to cover this quickly because we're almost running out of time. So query filtering is basically very user-friendly format. You just say df.query and then write your condition enclosed in parentheses and also quotes, single quotes. So you're saying GDP greater than 1,000. And so remember here, you have to use the word and for and condition, and population greater than 300 million. So same condition, we're going to get the same 3 countries as a result. Okay, so that covers the filtering or the data exploration part. We are left with data visualization. Nona, shall I just cover one type of chart quickly and then maybe we can go for the question and answers? Nona, are you there? Okay. I'm just going to show one example of a chart, maybe a bar chart, and then we can go ahead with some question and answers if anybody has. So to plot uh, the data, there are a lot of options under by using pandas as well as matplotlib. So first thing, as I showed in the beginning, we can import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. PLT is again a globally used convention. And then let me come here to the coding part. Okay, so here we'll try to plot the top 10 populous countries. For that, you just use the variable, whatever data frame you have. Here it's top 10 underscore pop dot plot. And then you mention the type of the under kind, you mention the type of the chart you want. What will the x-axis column be? What will the y-axis column be? You can also, this is optional, you can also mention the title for a chart and run that. So this is the, oops, sorry. So this is how we get a plot of the top 10 population countries, x-axis, y-axis, and the title. You can also mention the colors if you want. And let me quickly also show one more chart. Instead of the kind bar, if you mention the kind as scatter, and you can also mention the color, G is for green. And let me bring that up on this screen here. Oops, sorry about that. So you can see the plot is now charted. This is the scatter plot. Similarly, instead of scatter, you can have histogram as well, wherein you'll use only, you can only directly plot. I mean, you don't have to mention the column name. If you do not mention the column name, it will just plot out a histogram for all of them. But here we are plotting the histogram for the GDP column. Okay, and let me move this aside. So here, kind is histogram, title, color, and you can also mention the size of the figure or the chart as fig size, 5 by 5. Okay. And all right, so that is that. Apart from dot plot, we can also use dot hist. And this will basically give you a histogram of all the numerical columns at once. You can see this. You have the histogram for all the histogram, as you might, most of you might know, is used to look at the distribution of the data, how the data is distributed across different values. You can see that some of them have pretty higher values. And then some of them have, most of them are on the left side here within 500. Okay, and lastly, I would like to show you this one. All right, so let me bring that here. So this is our first chart. Yeah, box plot. So this is the box plot, which is used to identify outliers, any values that have either extremely high or low values outside of the other range of values. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so that covers today's topics. I would like to know if I'll stop presenting and like to know if anybody has any questions. Please go ahead. This. Okay, let me go back to the meeting.
I see we have the raised hand.
Mhm. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, Rajshri. Thanks a lot for the information. It was very helpful as I'm starting currently in data science.
Thank you.
Actually, I wanted to ask, which source would you recommend if we want to go deeper in the query filtering part?
Okay. In the query filtering part, I would still say refer to the JetBrains Academy, because what I went through is a very high level content. And if you go through the course, you can understand in much technical depth for query filtering as well as other aspects too.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Is it possible to put the website or the name that you just mentioned?
The course?
Yes.
Yes, sure. I'll do that. One second. I'm trying to
And
get
also,
that right.
yeah, and also you can find the links to the PyCharm and the plugin in the meetup description.
Okay. Okay. Meet up.
Yes.
In the
Let
Okay.
meetup
me.
page.
So it's, if you just Google like JetBrains Gateway to Pandas, JetBrains Gateway to Pandas. Yeah. Yeah. So I've just pasted the link here.
Yeah.
Is query filtering like SQL syntax? It's similar. It's quite similar. Yeah. If you like SQL queries, then I think that is the one you would prefer to go for.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I've pasted the link to the course of JetBrains. Of course, you will need PyCharm for that. PyCharm Community Edition is free, so you can use that. And that course is basically a plugin that you'll have to install in PyCharm.
Oh. Oh. Wow.
Okay.
That's very
And
good.
yeah, any other questions?
That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, anybody? Since we have only 3 minutes left, if you still have questions later, you can post them in our Slack channel, or you can also comment. If you're not able to access the Slack channel, you can comment in the meetup and we can reach out to you.
Yeah. And also
Thank
we
you.
will put in our Slack channel, we will put the feedback form, and we're collecting your feedback every time, because after every session, we want it to be better. And also I put it here for someone who's still not in the Slack, and invited you to fill some questions. This is 1-2 minutes, and it helps us to add some more features to the course content. And thank you for participation. Thanks,
Yes,
everyone.
and I would really recommend joining our Slack community, the women coding community. Go through the website, join our Slack channels. I am a great example of how somebody grows through the community. I have had great leaders. I was on a career break for, I guess, more than 4 years now, and trying to get back. And we have Nona and amazing women in tech leaders who will guide you through anything you want. You're looking for a change, or any way you want to grow in your career at any phase you are. And as Nona said, we are inclusive. It's not just for women. Anybody who follows our values can join in. So I really recommend joining the community. You will be amazed. All right. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Nona, would you like to add anything? And please ask any questions. We still have 1 minute.
I can add only that we will be happy to see everyone on the session 3. It will be after 2 weeks. So
Yes,
see
it
you.
will be on March 27, sorry, February 27,
Yeah.
and same time, same link. And we will be learning a little bit about data manipulation this time.
Mhm.
So I will be sharing the PDF of the slides, and the recording will be shared in the Slack channel as well. That is one advantage. And of course, in YouTube, the video of this session will be posted as soon as it is available.
Mhm. Usually it takes up to 5 days after the session.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And please do make sure you have, if you're interested in continuing, please do make sure you have PyCharm included. Try the examples hands on. Get back to us for any questions. The certificates will be given out for those who will be attending all the 4 sessions. And there is one optional project at the end that you can complete to get the certificate. So thank you very much. See you in the next session, hopefully.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.